Well, you did see the headlines this morning about the officers, the police officers who were killed while trying on a covert operation in Taraba State after arresting a kidnap kingpin. Those men were murdered, and now the police is screaming blue murder that those men, the police officers, identified themselves to the military men at the checkpoint, and yet after passing 3 different checkpoints, they were murdered at close range, at close quarters. And right now they're also posing questions. I think some of those questions should pop up for you, the questions that the policemen, that the Nigeria Police Force is posing. They say, where is the notorious kidnapper, Alhaji Hamisu Bala Wadume, who was rescued, and that rescued is in parentheses, by the soldiers. They say, how and why was Wadume released by the soldiers? How could a kidnapped suspect, properly restrained with handcuffs, escape from his military rescuers? These are some of the questions that the Nigeria Police is posing to the Nigerian military. You see more questions there. If Wadume is a victim of kidnapping as claimed and properly rescued by soldiers, why was he not taken to the army base for documentation purposes and debriefing? Why were the police operatives shot at close range even after they had identified themselves? It's a really messy and a very scandalous situation on our hands this morning. But we have with us this morning a retired Army Colonel, Yomi Dare. Welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Good morning, Mokwe, and thanks for having me on board.
It's a very, terrible situation when officers, police officers, who we understand we also have been involved in other cases before, other famous cases. The New Telegraph is reporting that this man, Inspector Mike Edaile, Sergeant Usman Danzumi, and Sergeant Dahiru Musa were involved in the arrest of Evans and also the arrest of the Chibok girls. So this is not their first time. They're not rookies in this game. What precisely, in your opinion, went wrong?
Well, first, must say that this is a very highly regrettable incident and very unfortunate. And of course, it's something that could have been avoided, save for what I consider some gaps, in the procedural exercise, because normally you'll have expected that in a situation such as this, the police should inform the military. Don't forget that the entire Northeast is a theater of operation. It's a theater of war as we speak. And don't also forget that once upon a time, especially around the Maiduguri axis, there wasn't even any police operations there.
The entire Northeast, but that doesn't include Taraba. Yes, we know of Adamawa, we know of Borno, we know of Yobe, but certainly Taraba has not been mentioned to be one of the areas where terrorism is an issue.
Well, don't forget that as we speak, in Taraba, there's the Tiva and the Jukun crisis that is ongoing.
Indeed.
Yes.
We know that.
Yes.
I mean, a communal clash is definitely different from, terrorism, so to speak, and insurgency. Taraba has not been mentioned alongside that.
No. The point is that there is generally issues of banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism.
True.
Okay?
I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. So indeed, I mean, we know that that is the situation all around the country, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
Banditry and kidnapping is rife in the southwest as it is also in the northwest, However, in this particular situation, where, according to the police, and we were not there, but from what they say, and even from what the military themselves have said, these men identify themselves as people working on a covert operation, identify themselves as police officers, yet this happened. You hear the police now screaming, there is foul play somewhere, something has gone wrong somewhere, with the questions that they are posing. How do you think the military is going to answer this?
Well, one thing I must really say here, and I think is a very serious note of warning to the hierarchy of both the police and the military, the Nigerian army, I think it's not something that should be discussed on the pages of a newspaper, because as we speak, the federal government or the president has directed an investigation, into this. And I want to say that Nigerians should wait for the outcome of the investigation. For me, if you may ask, I find it very appalling that this is coming, especially from the police. That after all, there's no crisis between the two organizations, because the police and the army should be working. There should be synergy. There should be liaison. Okay. And because in this whole gambit right now, there are stakeholders.
No, let us not forget that, amongst, yes, indeed, there should be cooperation. And of course, this raises huge questions as to the level of cooperation and the level of trust between agencies, between sister agencies, especially involved in security. Yeah. However, we should also remember that morale is something that is that needs to be dealt with very delicately, because if the police is not seen to be taking this up, the death of some of its finest men, so to speak, it's not taking it very seriously, it could have the effect of dampening morale amongst his own members of staff. Don't you think that could happen?
Well, I do agree with you. But one would have expected that, rather than mudslinging, one would have expected...
Is this mudslinging?
Well, I mean, have you read some of the things it's viral on the social media, It's viral on the social media.
But
I expect that I expect that we should just stop at, well, there has been reported clashes between the military and because the military too, they have their own story to tell. Okay? They have their own version of this, and you and I were not on the ground.
Isn't that where the problem has come up? The fact that the military has come up with a version without a thorough investigation of what is happening, isn't that where the police has had to now raise key questions as to, to the version raised by the Nigerian military?
Well, shouldn't we allow an investigation? There's a committee that's been set up under the Deputy Inspector General of Police, and with with the police and the army as members. Shouldn't we allow the outcome of this investigation? I think at this point in time, we should. We should, because according to the report of the army, these people were operating not in a branded police vehicle, but it was in a white bus, and there was a distress call. Okay, who made the distress call? At the end of the day, we'll get to know. But there was a reported distress call. Okay, and these people went past 3 checkpoints without stopping. Okay, and according to reports again,
video there. That's the amateur video taken.
Okay, okay, and that I believe that was after the incident.
Yeah.
Okay, that was after the incident. Yes.
So here you are saying.
So yes, and according to report, the CO, the commanding officer of the 93 Battalion, based on ground there, is not even aware. Ordinarily, you will have expected that somebody coming into his own jurisdiction, to carry out such operation, they should first report, maybe the area commander, then the DPO, and then the military commander should be aware of what is happening, because they are all stakeholders.
Okay, let's go to Lagos now and take another side of this particular conversation. Gentlemen.
Yes, we have the coordinator of Network on Police Reform, Mr. Okechukwu.
No, Executive Director, Rule of Law and Accountability Advocacy Center.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So, what do you make of all of this? Mr. Yomidari, the retired Army Colonel, says that both the Army and the police are supposed to be working together. Do you see that happening?
The first thing I want to do is to send my condolences to the police and to the families of these police officers that have been needlessly murdered. Now, anybody who has watched the video of what happened and who has conscience and blood running in him will not attempt to do anything to rationalize what is a clear criminality. Those police officers were killed needlessly. The whole action of the army officers that led to the killing of these police officers were criminal, were reckless, were unprovoked, and as a matter of fact, unpardonable. In the first place, the story being peddled by the army doesn't add up at all. The hasty response from the army showed clear insensitivity and an attempt to cover up the crime of their men and to shield people who ought to be treated and seen as criminals. It is not possible that these officers would have passed one army, checkpoint, not to talk of 3. Anybody who knows how a typical army checkpoint is will know that it is not plausible that they could have. Because in the first place, they were not on a criminal mission. They were on a legitimate mission to arrest a suspected kidnapper, and they had actually succeeded in arresting.
Why do you think it is impossible for them to have passed through the military?
Because anybody who goes through our roads and know the way the army set up their checkpoint is usually, they block in the road in such a way that you can't just pass. And if indeed, let's even assume that for the purpose of argument that they actually tried to, cross the first checkpoint. It was at that first that you will expect this opening of fire on them. So to talk of passing 1, passing 2, passing 3, and in the first place, the army said they were on a mission to rescue. They received a distress call. We need to know from who. Now, if they were going to rescue this kidnapped victim, would they be opening fire on the vehicle, knowing that the bullet could hit the victim? And when they eventually rescued the victim, in quotes, what did they do with the victim? We would expect that they would take the victim with the so-called suspects that the police officer did not call suspect, either to the military, their military, office, or to the police for proper investigation. The fact that they quickly released somebody who was in shackles clearly showed that it raises, and for me, the whole thing raises questions about the standard operating procedure of the military, as well as rules of engagement. How do you open fire that way? And when they had succeeded in demobilizing the vehicle, they were still firing at close range. And you tell me that this was a case of...
One of the things that was mentioned, by our guest in Abuja, is that, the police command ought to have informed, the other people, the sister agency, the army, of this kind of covert operation, so that in order to avoid this kind of confusion, as being claimed. How do you react to that?
I've read the first and second statements issued by the first PRO. Now, clearly the police said they registered their presence at the state command headquarters. And as a matter of fact, some officers from the Taraba State CID were part of the team that effected the arrest. So it is not, therefore, clear to me why the army will continue to peddle this story. Because they said clearly that they registered their presence, and they were accompanied in that operation by officers on the ground. And I dare to say that the response from the police for me is refreshing, because in the past, and this is not the first time we have seen this type of attack by army officers on police. In 2011 in Lagos, they killed a divisional police officer, a divisional crime officer, 8 senior officers at Badagry over little clash between police and army. And the DPO was leading a team to go to see the army commander to resolve the problem. And not the way they were ambushed and killed. And what happened? The army denied that it was their people that killed these officers. The police authorities at the time did not say anything. So that is why I find it, quite, I find it relieving that this time the police authorities are standing up for their men. And just like, Mabo was saying there, it has to do with the morale, because this thing can dampen morale. And I've been told that these officers killed are among the best.
Right, as you've rightly said, Nigeria sadly has lost one of the finest policemen in the country. That's on one hand. Also, we have a suspected kidnap kingpin on the loose. Obviously, the Nigerian army and the police are not on the same page with this. And Nigerians are wondering, we don't want to have this kind of issue, especially in the light of the security situation in the country. What we want is synergy between, both institutions. We understand that the president has, called for, some sort of investigation into this to get to the root of the matter. So my question for you is, how should this be handled such that it does not degenerate into something much worse?
The problem of interagency rivalry has been there over the years.
Rivalry, you said?
Well, yeah, interagency is not just between the police and the army, but virtually all the agencies. When you look at what happens during elections, But I'm saying that rivalry should not, get to the extent of killing police officers.
Should there be rivalry in the first place?
There shouldn't be. But I'm saying that, and for me, that is a discussion for another day. There shouldn't be, but it has been existing. But I'm saying that no matter what it is, we shouldn't have seen this level of, brutal attack on police officers. For me, we shouldn't let this just pass. Maybe as in the past.
Maybe that is why some people are also concerned about whether or not the effect that the investigation ordered by the president could be. There have been investigations like that in the past. So far people are still wondering what happened to those reports. Now the investigation that's been ordered by the president is going to is at the defense headquarters, which is headed by a DIG. DIG is the police, defense headquarters is the army. So do you have any confidence in that inquiry producing any?
That was actually where I was going to. The investigation ordered by the president, I think there's a problem with that. The army or the military cannot be judged in their own crime. Now, I think that what we need would be an independent, transparent, and credible investigation. For me, a judicial panel of inquiry would be appropriate for us to get to the roots of this, because the truth is that the people who have committed this crime are army officers. The victims are the police. Both sides should not be involved in investigation. I think we need a judicial panel of inquiry to get to the truth. Because for me, this matter should not be left to die. Justice must be attained. These army officers must be, at the minimum, court-martialed. Because the truth is that the video has revealed what happened. So investigation will probably be to, understand other factors around it. The first thing I expect the army authority to do is to court-martial those officers, dismiss them, and hand them over for prosecution for murder. Because a clear case of murder has been clearly established. Anything less would, because for me, let me also say, this all over the country, there have been complaints, outrage over the excesses of army officers.
Okay.
Checkpoints, extortion, brutality in Aba. We're still coming out from the complaints in Aba when this happened.
One could go on and on, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back to conclude on this. Stay with us.
The military said that the policemen fired first, that they had gone past 3 checkpoints and they fired first. That's what they allege. The military completes their statement by saying that they will wait until the Joint Investigation Panel concludes and submits its report. Otherwise, it will be premature to officially conclude and speak on the real circumstances that caused this unfortunate but very avoidable, unfortunate incident. Retired Colonel Yomidare is still with us in the studios. I was going to ask you for your concluding point, especially when the police says that if indeed these people were rescued, where is the documentation? There ought to be debriefing and things of the sort, a process to show that indeed these people were rescued. What is your take on that?
Well, again, Mokwe, this is an unfortunate and avoidable, an incident that could have been avoided, you know. I can understand Mr. Nwaguma's, feelings, emotions. It's not as if I mean, we all have blood running through our veins. It's very, very unfortunate. But don't forget that these are some of the consequences, or unintended consequences of a crisis situation, such as we have in our hands, you know. And what I would say is that both the police and the army should, for now, please just avoid all these exchanges and await, you know, the outcome of the investigation, okay? And again, don't forget that just like we have bad eggs in the police, so also in the military. And I want to say that if at the end of the day, the soldiers are found to be culpable, they should be dealt with accordingly.
You think that on its own, the military should be conducting internal investigations, aside the one that has been conducted by the DHQ?
Oh, absolutely. The military will. Absolutely. And again, we must also, you know, we must respect and observe, you know, intra and inter-agency cooperation. You know, if you are coming into an area of operation, there's need to inform the military, because there's a military commander on the ground, you know, even the police, because according to information, even the DPO said he wasn't aware.
But let's not forget it was supposed to be a covert operation. And
Well,
this man has been operating in their midst before these people came in. But, retired Army Colonel Yomidare, we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. That's where we'll have to leave the conversation. It's back to you guys in Lagos.
Thank you very much.
Very quickly, Mr. Waguma, what do you expect the police to be doing now? I mean, this is all out in the open now.
Yeah, I think, just like I said, I like the way the police has, you know, stood up for their men, and I want Nigerians to pay attention to this case. But I think the one issue it throws up is the need to restore the primacy of the police in dealing with internal security challenges. The military have no business, you know, being deployed. What the government needs to do is to equip the police to be able to take up their, you know, constitutional duty of maintaining internal security, so that all these, you know, casualties that result from military involvement in internal security issues will be avoided.
All right, well, Mr. Waguma Okechukwu is Executive Director, Rule of Law and Advocacy Center. Thank you very much for being a part of this conversation this morning. And I guess this is where we leave it for the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much for being a part of ours, and thank you for giving us the privilege of being a part of yours. My name is Ayo Makine. Have a wonderful weekend.
I am Kayode Okikele.
And Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Do have a lovely day.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.